Alright, y'all, we back at it with Cartel Wives, a spin-off of the Surviving El Chapo series. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe and the like button, hit the notification bell so you know what's popping with us. We can keep this channel moving forward. I'm looking forward to this story. I'm hoping there's a lot involved in this book that we didn't get to hear about in the Surviving El Chapo podcast. It's going to be interesting considering the new developments in the lady's case. They've taken a deal. I think they're both going to get about 18 months after, everything's said and done. I think it was like a 3.5 year sentence. Also, if you'd like to purchase the audiobook, the hard copy, or the paperback of Cartel Wives, I'll have the Amazon link in the description. And with that said, let's get at it. We're going to do episode 1 and episode 2. Let's do it.
Cartel Wives. A true story of deadly decisions, steadfast love, and bringing down El Chapo. Written by Mia Flores and Olivia Flores. Narrated by Joy Nash and Sylvia Gonzalez. A note to the listener. In writing this book, we have recreated events, locales, and conversations based on our memories of them. In order to protect our own safety and that of various friends and loved ones, it was necessary to condense, omit, or alter certain events and timelines, and to change the names and identifying details of certain individuals. In all events, however, we have striven to convey the true and unvarnished essence of our experience.
The irony of changing names to protect people. All the name dropping that went down, all the people that went down. It's a lot of names.
This is our memoir, and not that of our husbands, and we have neither discussed, consulted, nor otherwise confirmed our recollections with them. Dedication. To my husband. Without you, I wouldn't be who I am today. You have been my everything since the day I said I love you. A lifetime with you wouldn't be enough. I can't wait to spend forever with you. Mia.
To my husband, my best friend. You were right again. When you told me I'd get a record deal and a book deal, I couldn't see it. You believed in me, built me up, and supported me. When I wanted to quit...
Got a record deal and a book deal, huh? Yeah, it's still an aspiring family, right? And it's a family aspiring towards greatness. Got the book deal.
When I wanted to quit, you encouraged me to finish. You said the tough times would help me grow and see how blessed I am. It took writing this book to realize that. You've inspired me, motivated me, and have been my biggest fan. With you by my side, I can accomplish anything I put my heart into. You've always put me first, seen the good in me, and brought out the best in me. You made every dream of mine come true, and I will love you and cherish you for the rest of my life. Olivia. In loving memory of Margarito Flores Sr., you will never be forgotten. May you rest in peace. We love you.
If you remember from the story, Margarito, the father of the twins, decided that he was going to go back to Mexico regardless the outcome, and didn't last long before he was missing and his car was found.
Cast of major characters. In alphabetical order. Tomás Arevalo Renteria, nicknamed Tommy. He was from Sinaloa and became Junior Flores' best friend. In Chicago, he was the twins' first supplier from Mexico and soon began to work for them. The Flores twins later helped secure his indictment.
All right, so if y'all remember, Jay's best friend Tommy, who happened to be, I believe, Armando, the older brother's connect. And when Armando got popped off because he made the house too hot, Tommy came to the twins and thus started their life of hustling and cartelling. Mind you, Tommy, Jay's best friend, was one of the guys that got done in one of those deals. Evidently one of those deals that took place once they were in custody and put to work.
Alfredo Beltrán Leiva, nicknamed Mocomo. He is the younger brother of Arturo, and along with his 4 other brothers, founder of the Beltrán Leiva organization, BLO, one of Mexico's top cartels. He was a BLO boss alongside his brother Arturo. The Flores brothers' cooperation was a major factor in him not going to trial. and on February 23, 2016, Mocomo pled guilty to conspiracy charges and is now serving a life sentence. Arturo Beltrán Leiva, nicknamed La Barba, and the self-proclaimed Jefe de Jefes, or boss of bosses. Along with his 4 brothers, he was one of the founders of the Beltrán Leiva organization, BLO, one of Mexico's most powerful cartels. The BLO was allied with the Sinaloa Cartel until they started warring in 2008. He was the cartel's head boss until he was killed by Navy SEALs during a raid on December 16, 2009.
Frogman gotcha.
Joe Bonelli, the longtime lawyer of Peter and Junior Flores, who defended their brother Adrian against drug charges and took their case when they decided to become federal informants. During the brothers' incarceration, Joe felt he was such a target of retaliation by the cartels that he asked his name never be used, and in all public documents, it's been redacted. Ruben Castillo, the chief judge for the United States Court of the Northern District of Illinois, who presided over the federal cases of Peter and Junior Flores. David, Junior Flores' lawyer, who was a top attorney in Chicago and was hired while Junior was negotiating his plea agreement. Eric, a special agent for the Chicago Bureau of the DEA. He became one of the leading agents who oversaw the Flores brothers' case when they became informants. Manuel Fernández Valencia, a.k.a. La Puerca, or El Animal, a Sinaloa and BLO associate who controlled a series of tunnels from Mexicali to Calexico and became a trusted business partner of the Flores brothers.
Looks like we're going to hear about a lot of people that we didn't hear about in the podcast. So I'm interested in looking forward to that.
He was captured and arrested in late 2010. Adrian Flores, the older brother of Pedro and Margarito Flores Jr. He was arrested for drug conspiracy in August 1998. Despite the constant pressure he put on his younger brothers to make an honest living, his arrest left a financial vacuum in his family, causing the twins to build their own drug enterprise.
Not only his arrest, his carelessness and the fact that he wasn't paying the bills at the trap. You know, he wasn't he wasn't handling his business. The rent got to be paid in order for things to happen. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't need him for money. I mean, if you had money, you was making money, but you was burning it. He didn't pay the rent.
Amelia Flores, the widow of Margarito Flores Sr. She has 7 children with her late husband. Daniela Flores, the wife of Adrian Flores. She fled Mexico in 2008 along with the rest of the Flores family. Margarito Flores Jr., nicknamed Junior. He and his identical twin, Pedro, were born on June 12, 1981, in Chicago, the youngest of 7 children. He and his brother became 2 of the most important cooperators in U.S. history and are scheduled to be released from prison no later than 2021. Margarito Flores Sr., born in 1937 in central Mexico. This father of 12 dropped out of school in 3rd grade, married his wife in 1959, and immigrated to Chicago in 1969. In 1981, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for possession of a controlled substance.
He had 12 kids. He wasn't playing no games. 7 with the twins' mama.
And after his release, he taught his young sons the drug trade. He returned to Mexico in 2009 and was never seen again. Mia Flores, born in Chicago in 1980 and daughter of a police officer in the Chicago Police Department's special units, she married Peter Flores in 2005 and now lives in hiding with her 2 young children. Olivia Flores, born in Chicago in 1975 to a Chicago police officer. She married Margarito Flores Jr. in 2005 and now lives in hiding with her 2 young children. Pedro Flores, nicknamed Peter. He and his identical twin, Margarito Jr., were born on June 12, 1981, in Chicago, the youngest of 7 children. He and his brother became two of the most important cooperators in U.S. history and are scheduled to be released from prison no later than 2021.
And so it was.
Kevin Garcia. Known to most people as K, this high-ranking member of the Latin Kings was Olivia Flores' second husband.
They totally changed K's name. So this is Kato.
He was gunned down by rival gang members in Chicago in June 2003. Joaquin Guzman Loera, nicknamed El Chapo. He was born in poverty to a cattle farmer from the Mexican state of Sinaloa on April 4th, 1957. He rose to become the head of the Sinaloa Cartel and the most powerful and sought-after drug lord in the world. Mark Jones, the high school and college boyfriend of Mia Flores. He became a Chicago Police Department beat cop. In 2012, in a massive police corruption scandal, he pleaded guilty to stealing cash from suspected drug dealers and other Chicago citizens. Because of his work undercover, he was sentenced to just 2 months in prison. Leo, the first husband of Olivia Flores. He gave prosecutors information about Sergio Gomez's plot to kidnap Olivia Flores' parents, hoping for a lenient sentence.
So he gave police information on somebody else's plot, somebody whose name I don't believe we heard yet, to kidnap Val's parents.
Matthew,
Crazy.
a special agent for the Milwaukee Bureau of the DEA. He originally raided the Flores brothers' homes in 2004, an event that led to them becoming fugitives. He worked closely with
2004 led to them being fugitives. So that was when Val and Jay were in Mexico celebrating their marriage, and Peter was on the run after Milwaukee came down on him, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
He worked closely with Eric on the Flores brothers case when they became informants. Músico, Arturo Beltrán Leiva's right-hand man and top lieutenant in the BLO. German Olivares, El Chapo's chief executive and right-hand man. He controlled the Juarez Plaza. Ruben Oseguera Cervantes, nicknamed El Mencho. This feared leader of the new generation cartel once barricaded Guadalajara and set fire to banks, buses, and gas stations, then posted it on YouTube.
He's still out there doing his thing.
He's been known to murder Mexican army soldiers and shoot down military helicopters with shoulder-held rocket launchers. After the capture of El Chapo, he is now the most wanted drug lord in Mexico. Pablo, known as Uncle Pablo to Peter and Junior Flores. He was an old family friend and associate of the Sinaloa Cartel who for many years served as their supplier. He was behind the April 2005 kidnapping of Peter Flores and the December 2005 kidnapping of Margarito Flores Sr.
That must be their uncle. They couldn't believe it was him that kidnapped Peter. He's the one that told Chapo that they owed him $10 million that was Chapo's money. But what I didn't know was that he had kidnapped Senior, Margarito Sr. too. I didn't know that part of the story, or I don't remember that part of the story. They didn't get to that in the podcast, if I recall correctly.
Betraying El Chapo and not settling his debts with him, he was kidnapped and executed by the drug lord sicarios. Paco, one of Junior Flores' closest friends. Músico was his boss in the BLO, and he was Chapillo Lomas' compadre. He was in charge of collecting $500,000 monthly to pay Mexican officials to open up drug routes. Rambo, El Chapo's top sicario, or hitman, and head of a cell of hitmen in Jalisco, Mexico. Sergio Gomez, a paid informant of the Chicago Police Department beginning in the late 1990s. Rodriguez was behind the 2003 kidnapping of Peter Flores in Chicago. With the assistance of...
So this Sergio guy is the Saul guy that they were talking about in the podcast. So evidently, more than just kidnap Peter, he wanted to kidnap Val's parents. So Saul is Sergio in this story.
With the assistance of corrupt police officers, it's estimated he kidnapped and robbed at least 29 other drug dealers over the years.
So he was assisted by police when he took Peter. That's crazy. Saul, they knew it was dude. They got Buddy once they sat at the table too. They put him somewhere.
In 2015, Rodriguez was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
There it is.
Tom, an assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois from 2004 to 2015. Tom led the investigation and prosecution of the Flores brothers and the dozens of superseding indictments that spun out of their case. He left government service for private practice in February 2015. Alfredo Vázquez Hernandez, a compadre and longtime friend of El Chapo's, whom the Flores brothers partnered with to open a furniture transport company that would help them secretly transport drugs in rail cars. In November 2014, he pleaded guilty to drug conspiracy and was sentenced.
See, if you guys were as elaborate with your fronts, your clean, legit, money laundering fronts, as you were with the way you handled the logistics and the problems that came with transporting, if y'all used those skills for that, you'd have had a longer run.
Sentenced to 22 years in prison. Ismael Zambada Garcia, nicknamed El Mayo. He was born on New Year's Day, 1948. He is one of the founders and leaders of the Sinaloa Cartel, along with El Chapo Guzman. He is currently under indictment by the United States and Mexico, with over $5 million in reward money for his capture. And with the imprisonment of El Chapo, he is the current head of the Sinaloa Cartel. Ismael Zambada Imperial, a.k.a. Mayito Gordo. The younger brother of Vicente and Mayito Flaco, this narco junior son of El Mayo was arrested near Culiacan in November 2014 and is due to be extradited to San Diego to stand trial for drug trafficking. Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, a.k.a. Mayito Flaco. The younger brother of Vicente and older brother of Mayito Gordo. His indictment for drug trafficking was unsealed in San Diego in January 2015. He is now a fugitive. Vicente Zambada Niebla, nicknamed El Vicentillo or El Niño. He is one of the sons of El Mayo. Vicente rose to become number 3 in the Sinaloa Cartel. He was arrested in 2009 and extradited to the United States in 2010, where he became a U.S. informant. He is currently awaiting sentencing for narcotics trafficking.
Ain't enough room for the rats in jail. So many of them. Jesus. All right. That was episode 1. Episode 1, basically a table of context as far as the players in the game that are going to be spoken of in this book. Forward to hearing about these plots that Saul had. Looking forward to a lot of the story, so let's get into chapter 2.
Introduction. To our kids' friends, we're just average soccer moms. In truth, we're the wives of identical twin brothers who are almost single-handedly responsible for the meteoric rise of narcotics in the United States over the last 2 decades. From 1998 to 2008, our husbands, Pedro and Margarito Flores Jr., grew to become high-level traffickers who blazed a drug-riddled trail across the Mexican border, dramatically increasing the volume of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, and marijuana passing into the United States, traveling through their hub in Chicago, and then fanning out to almost a dozen major cities across the United States and Canada.
Sounds right to me.
In 2008, at the height of their criminal enterprise, Peter and Junior, as we know them and will call them in this book, made the difficult and life-changing decision to cooperate with the federal government, become informants, and ultimately turn themselves in. This was a family decision, made by the 4 of us while sitting at the kitchen table one night, and we did it to spare our children from the horrors of the recent Mexican drug wars, with their torture, murder, and complete destruction of far too many families and communities. More than that, We needed to stop the cycle of crime that our husbands were born into. We didn't want our children to see this as their future. We were never drug users, and our husbands weren't, and never had been, proud of their day-to-day work. They did it only because it was the only life they'd ever known. In their family, drugs weren't just normal and accepted. They were the trade their father taught them. Even in America, the supposed land of opportunity, when you're poor, uneducated, and Mexican, drug dealing is often thought to be the only way up.
Listen, man. You could give me this is the only life you know shit. You could tell me you did it so that the destruction stops, but it just continued to destroy people. The truth of the matter is, you was in so deep that the only parachute you saw to get out was that. See, what they don't want to hear and what they don't like to hear and what annoys them is that they did some rat shit. They don't like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you got to understand, from your perspective, you did the righteous thing. You did what you had to do for your family. But from them families that's out there, that's on the ground level out here, that their people were indicted over those deals that were done in those federal offices in the 7 months that they had y'all sitting down. Those people don't feel that way. There's another side of the coin. You know what I'm saying? You're always going to be open to that ridicule. It just is what it is. So miss me with all of the we did it for righteous reasons shit. You know what I'm saying? You did it to protect your family, and people who love their family ain't going to judge you over that shit. They'll say, I would have done the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of people will agree with you and say you did the right thing for your family. That's what mattered. But that didn't work out so good for other families. You know, other families that helped you get money. You ain't just helped them get money because you was the connect. You had everything. They helped you get money too. You know what I'm saying? And they got hung out to dry. So you want everybody to see it from your perspective, and that ain't the attitude that you can have, because you done gave your life to us. You done gave us books. You done gave us podcasts. There's gonna be movies. There's gonna be TV shows in the future. People gonna have their opinion. People gonna have their perspective of it. You know. Just holla at your boy 50. Make sure I'm in that movie, all right? I'm a SAG actor.
Drug dealing is often thought to be the only way up.
And I ain't mad at you.
After Peter and Junior became informants and told the U.S. Attorney's Office every detail of their criminal career, they spent almost all of 2008 secretly recording conversations with the highest level cartel members in Mexico, including notorious narco-criminal Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Their unprecedented cooperation helped secure the indictments of 69 major drug figures, from the architects of border-crossing tunnels to the bosses of several cartels, who practically ran Mexico. Additionally, they assisted in 11 superseding indictments that netted over 100 people.
Those people ain't gonna agree with you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Those people are gonna say them twins are rats. You know what I'm saying? They're rats. Everybody they love is rats. That's what they're going to say. Whether you got books, whether you got podcasts, whether you're in the limelight or not, or hidden in the darkness, that's what they're going to say. So you're not going to get everybody to see things from your perspective. Me, I'm on the outside looking in. I can only judge the shit that I know I wouldn't do. That's it.
They assisted in 11 superseding indictments that netted over 100 people. Today, not all of these people are in jail, but with our husband's testimony, they soon will be. And some of the worst are dead, killed by the mouths they once helped feed. In 2015, Peter and Junior were sentenced for their crimes and sent to off-the-radar Federal Witness Security Unit prisons, and we went into hiding. We now live in undisclosed locations with our young children, visit our husbands on weekends and holidays, and lie to our friends and neighbors about who we are. While we sit in the carpool line waiting to pick up our kids, we wonder if it's time to change our cell phone numbers for the second time that month, fret over whether our husband's upcoming testimony against a cartel head will cause a hitman to track us down, and try as hard as possible to imagine a distant future when our families will be reunited under the watchful eye of the Witness Protection Program. Even if you've never touched drugs, they've changed your life. While you may not realize it, narcotics are all around you, and they're altering the very fabric of the world we live in. The innocent-looking cashier at your neighborhood convenience store may be hiding a kilo of cocaine behind the counter. Or the sweet, quiet lady you sit next to on a plane may have a balloon full of heroin in her stomach.
Absolutely.
The smiling class parent who greets you at your son's junior high school dance might secretly be battling an addiction to prescription painkillers.
So what?
Our husband stashed millions of dollars worth of cocaine and heroin in a luxury townhouse down the street from Harpo Studios, and did the same at home in Tony Calabasas, a few miles from where the Kardashians live. Yet none of the neighbors suspected a thing. Or, look at us. We tell people we're just stay-at-home moms who are separated from our husbands, but in truth, we were once on a first-name basis with men who put bullets into the backs of people's heads. While most mothers like us are hosting the Boy Scout troop on Sunday nights, we're coming back from a day visiting our husbands in federal prison. You can blame a lot of things for the pervasiveness of drugs in this country, but the truth is that Peter and Junior Flores, two baby-faced Mexican-American identical twin brothers from the west side of Chicago, are behind much of it.
It's like I don't know whose side they're on in this book. You know what I'm saying? They say things like, there was a line earlier.
Not all of these people are in jail, but with our husband's testimony, they soon will be.
Some of these people are not in prison yet, but they will be. You know what I'm saying? And now, you're talking about how drugs permeate everything in our society and about how your husbands, these little dudes from Little Village, managed to facilitate that and make that happen. I think they're saying a couple of things there. It could be a couple of things there. It could be they're saying, like, I don't know which one of them said it in the podcast recently in season 2. We're your monster. We're the monster you made. We're not Mexican monsters. We're Chicago monsters from America, the United States of America. We're the monster you made. She's saying, look how easy it was. Look how easy it was for a couple of 20-somethings to permeate drugs through the culture. You know what I'm saying? Or she's saying, these two little badasses from Little Village permeated the culture with these drugs. Say something. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it's, and it could be the narration too. You know, you're not getting it from the horse's mouth. So I'll consider that when I'm listening and giving my opinion. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to see, is this a puff piece? Or are we shitting on the people we put away? Are we giving ourselves props? Is this some grandiose, self-aggrandizing? We'll see.
While we knew and know them as the gentle, loving, mild-mannered men who treated us with nothing but love and respect, the law knows them as the most significant drug informants in U.S. history. As kids, Peter and Junior learned the business from their father. When they were in their teens, they started off dealing drugs on the streets of Little Village, the heavily Mexican area of Chicago around where we all grew up. Over the next few years, they established a contact in Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel, and they graduated to become distributors rather than dealers. They set up their business, ran it like a well-oiled machine, and soon became Chicago's most prominent traffickers. In Chicago, their business was strictly U.S.-based, but when they fled to Mexico in 2003, they hit the international stage. Within a few years, they befriended the major cartel heads and became responsible for hundreds of tons of narcotics crossing the border and being distributed throughout the United States and Canada. Then they funneled $2 billion in cash back into the hands of the Mexican cartels. In their 5 years living in Mexico, they weren't in any cartel, but they were the only American drug kingpins allowed to work directly with the bosses of the Sinaloa Cartel.
These dudes were geniuses at the logistical side of all this. They could have had their own trucking companies delivering shit all over the world, Amazon style or FedEx style. You know what I'm saying? Because these companies should consult them on how to get around quicker and safer, because if there's one thing these dudes knew how to do, it was to get routes in order and get things going where they had to get to.
Headed by El Chapo and Ismael Zambada Garcia, aka El Mayo, and the Beltran Leyva organization, BLO, run by El Chapo's relatives and sworn enemies, Arturo and Alfredo Mocomo Beltran. They were wholesalers who bought vast volumes of narcotics from the cartels on credit, and then arranged for its transport from Mexico to LA to Chicago. They took a business of tons and siphoned it into a business of kilos, then shipped the money back to their suppliers. Their operations didn't stop once the drugs reached the United States, though. They kept men on the ground in Chicago to process the money and make sure the narcotics reached their destinations across the United States and Canada. No one in Mexico did what they did, or as well as they did. So El Chapo Guzman, El Mayo Zambada, and the Beltran Leyva brothers peacefully vied for their attention. What better way to move billions of dollars in drugs into the United States than with the genius of twins who'd already built an empire there, who had intimate knowledge of U.S. drug trafficking, and who, best of all, were American citizens living in Mexico.
They were American fugitives hiding in Mexico.
In early 2008, though, everything changed. The Sinaloa Cartel went to war with the BLO, and the average number of drug-related murders per month in Mexico shot up from 200 to 500. Junior and Peter were working in a culture where it became normal for heads to roll into neighborhood bars right up to people's feet, or to hear of entire families shot to death on the streets of Guadalajara.
Well, this is where that life and death situation kicked in. The split between the BLO and Sinaloa. When they split, it was like, are we going to get these little geniuses from America that know how to run these routes? Or are they going to get them? Because if we don't get them, they're not going to get them. And that's basically what sent them over the edge to the parachute, which was the United States federal government. But this right here, what she's talking about right here, is the beginning of that gun to the head scenario.
Our husbands saw men lying in the hot sun, strapped to trees, and skinned alive. Suddenly, the drug trade in Mexico had become a grudge match on a macro scale. Sinaloa and the BLO wanted to destroy each other, and that meant killing everyone who was on the opposing side. Unfortunately for our husbands, they were the biggest assets of both cartels, and as such, caught between the two of them. At this point, the height of their career, our husbands had warehouses, stash houses run by their many employees, and legitimate businesses, such as shipping companies, as fronts. Their financial ledgers were so...
Here's the problem with that. These shipping companies, one thing if they're fronts and they're laundering money, but these shipping companies were probably fronts that were laundering money, that was moving work and money back and forth across, state, county, and country lines, borders.
Their financial ledgers were so sophisticated and extensive that when they turned them over to U.S. authorities, the feds had to hire a team of forensic accountants to sort through them. An official said that they ran their business like a Fortune 500 company, and that if they hadn't been drug traffickers, they could have been CEOs of legitimate corporations. In the years 2006 to 2008, their peak, they transported between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds of cocaine each month. If you consider that a kilo is 2.2 pounds, that's almost $50 million worth of cocaine a month. That's $600 million a year.
That's 2 years that affected your life and everybody else's life forever. That 2-year peak. Because that's where it ended. And everything crumbled. Fell from the sky.
But they were stuck between two warring factions. And they hated the example they were setting for their families. So they gave it all up. When they did, they spent most of 2008 acting as informants.
Stop the whole family shit, man. You know what I'm saying? You got out for your family's sake. But the whole examples, guess what? Would y'all have been examples if there wasn't a war? If business was going to go good for another 10 years, y'all was worried about being examples? You know what I'm saying? The example to set would have been to do the Easy E. Take that bread and go make something legit with it. Which all you need is money to do that. You know what I'm saying? You love the game. Stop lying to yourself. You love the game. So this whole holier than thou, or this whole I didn't want my family. By the time if you would have done that in 2007, right? The middle of your peak. If in 2007 they had made the decision, hey, we're out the game, which they probably couldn't have. The cartel would have came at them anyway. You know what I'm saying? But let's just say you had the opportunity to get you a parachute that didn't have nothing to do with the feds. You was able to opt out and turn over your business and opt out and go straight legit. If you were able to, let's just say in a perfect world, you were able to do that. You know what I'm saying? By the time your kids would have been of age, they wouldn't have known nothing about nothing. So to say that, oh, we did it because we didn't want to be a bad influence on our family. Come on, man. If the game was good for you for the next 10 years, you'd have took it. And maybe you wouldn't. Maybe I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's why it's my opinion and my perspective.
They spent most of 2008 acting as informants, recording every business conversation they had and handing over massive shipments of drugs that had crossed the border on their watch. After several months, they voluntarily turned themselves in to Drug Enforcement Administration officials at the Guadalajara International Airport and were immediately flown back to Chicago. Over the next 6 years, they were held in protective custody. Because of their testimony, the city of Chicago named El Chapo as public enemy number 1, a title previously only given to Al Capone. On January 27, 2015, they were sentenced to 14 years in a maximum security prison, with credit given for the 6 years they'd already served. If we're lucky and alive, we'll see them released in 2021, when our kids are practically grown up. While they're behind bars, they can't tell the world about the horrors we all witnessed and the redemption we've sought. But we can. We've remained silent in the 8 long years since we kissed the beaches of Mexico goodbye, fleeing back to Chicago and toward our new, uncharted futures. Now, we can only trust each other, and we certainly can't tell anything to our neighbors or families. We've considered granting interviews to the press, but we wanted to hold off until we could tell our full stories without interruption. We want you to hear what our families have gone through in our own words. We're not writing this book to become rich. We've been wealthy beyond our wildest dreams, and the truth is, we don't miss it.
Y'all don't miss it? I'm not a believer in you don't miss it. You're selling your stories for a reason. You want the story out. You want public perception to be better. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. Do that. You're gonna, by the masses, you will be accepted. There's just always gonna be those certain people that ain't gonna buy that shit.
If we'd wanted our lives to stay the same, we would have begged our husbands to stay in Mexico, where we drove luxury cars, lived in penthouses, vacationed on the beach in Puerto Vallarta.
All with a gun to your head. Because the moment you made the wrong move, you skinned and attached to a tree.
Vacationed on the beach in Puerto Vallarta whenever we felt like it, and had more cash than our families had ever dreamed of. But it was dirty money, with a trail of bodies behind it.
The world could look at me like an asshole for calling bullshit on the whole, it was dirty money, we didn't want to be a bad influence on our family, and we were setting a bad example and all this shit. Because after this book, y'all was pushing money around. You know what I'm saying? That's what you're going to jail for now. So once you get caught with all that shit, you got to start a new line of thinking for yourself. And you still, right now, you still want us to believe that all this righteousness. Stop. You love the game. You love the game. You know what I'm saying? You love the game.
Through it all, we would have done anything to have our husbands with 9-to-5 jobs like our fathers had.
I call bullshit, again, because when you guys had the opportunity to have 9-to-5 guys, you never had 9-to-5 guys. You know what I'm saying? I can't speak for Viviana, but for Val, you never had 9-to-5 guys. You had hustlers, always, from the beginning. Stop it, man. See, that's the part that I don't like. People be frustrated with me Because I don't just continue to sugarcoat the sugarcoated shit. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to continue to sugarcoat the sugarcoated shit. The truth of the matter is, you love the game. You love the game, and it don't take nothing away from you to just say that. But this whole, we for the children, for righteousness, for all of this, save that shit, man. I don't believe you. None of you.
We would have done anything to have our husbands with 9-to-5 jobs like our fathers had. For different reasons, we fell in love with criminals, and we're not here to justify it, but we'd like to tell you how and why it happened. Our lives are tarnished and secretive, and our pasts are shameful, but we have a story to tell. We've had greater access to the cartels than almost any other American citizen, so we can provide an unprecedented window into how they work, the damage they've caused, and why putting them out of business has proven so difficult. As for the personal side of this story, we want to provide an unfiltered look into why people enter a life of crime. Unfortunately, for many, especially poor Mexican workers, it's the only choice they feel they have. You're probably surprised we're still with our husbands. And trust us, we understand why. The idea of one of our kids marrying someone involved in any kind of illegal activity, let alone drug trafficking, is unthinkable. We're not asking that you like Peter and Junior, and, in fact, you may wish they could spend the rest of their lives in prison for all the harm they've caused. Neither of us is here to try to save our reputation. We just want to open up a window into our culture, show how it shaped us, and help you visualize a life we wouldn't wish on our worst enemies. Sometimes, stories don't have heroes. We just hope to illuminate how and why people are pulled into the drug trade, how it ruins them, and what it's like to live the rest of your life as a consequence of the mistakes you've made in the past.
That's a fact. You take all the money that these thieves been lacing their pockets and their families' coffers with for the last 100 years, you just get the stolen money back and you spread that money out, crime drop. Be a lot less hustlers out there. But again, I'm not buying we just happen to fall in love with criminals. We're going to see what this love story got to tell us, but I'm not buying we just happen. No. This is what you looked for. This is what you loved. Just like you loved the game. You too loved the game. The ladies loved the game. The men loved the game. The game got a little crazy. We had to hit the eject. That's cool. Just understand. Public perception of that comes from the people's families and friends that went down with you, that didn't do as good as you in the end. That was chapter 2, Cartel Wives. First chapter was basically them making it known who they're going to talk about and what their position is in this universe. Episode 2 was basically the preamble, giving the little tidbits of information of who they are, and there was a summary of what's to come. I'm hoping in chapter 3 they start delving into these smaller stories and tell us these little stories that we want. We know the big deal. Oh yeah, they dope from Canada to California to Mexico to we get it, and I get it. They gotta say it in the book. They did their summary. Hopefully in chapter 3 we start getting to the real deal stories, the stories that we didn't get to hear in the podcast. Again, the Amazon link is in the description if you'd like to purchase Cartel Wives in all its forms. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get your notifications, hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me what you'd like me to react to, and we'll keep it moving from there. Peace.